For these examples with variables, we need to just treat the variables as times and divide factors. And we know that times and divide will cancel or undo each other. So what I've done is express the 3a as 3 times a, the 15b as 5 times 3 times b, and in the bottom I have 5 times b, and the 6 becomes 2 times 3. So what we can then do is we can take a look at any times and divide. So it's all connected with times. There's no pluses in there. So we can then say that a times 5, divide 5 will cancel. Times 3, divide 3 will cancel. So for the number parts, we're going to end up with 3 on top and 2 on bottom. So when we take a look at the variables, we have this times b on top and a divide b on bottom. Those will undo each other. So the only thing left on top is the times a, so we write that as times a on top. For b, we're going to just rewrite this with multiplication first. And again, I'm going to maybe write this 8 as 2 times 4. And then that's going to be times x. And I'm going to write the x squared as x times x. And on the bottom, we have 5 times y. And I'm going to switch that divide into a times. And then I'll just make that look more like a times. Change that into times. And then we're going to flip that fraction to 5y on top, 2 times x on the bottom. So again, we can see that times and divide will cancel out. So times 5, divide 5 will cancel. Times y, divide y will cancel. And again, since this is all connected with times and divide, it's all just one numerator is times, one denominator is divide. I have a times 2, divide 2. I have a times x, divide x. And then all that's left then is in the numerator is a times by 4 times by x. So my final answer is just 4x. For C, we have to do the plus first and then the times. So I'm just going to do the plus first. And to do the plus, I need a common denominator. So I have a denominator of 14 and 7. So I'm going to do times by 2 on top, times by 2 on bottom. So I end up with a over 14 plus, this is 6a over 14. And then times by 3 over a. So I need to do the plus first. I've got a common denominator. I'm counting a's in the numerator, so those can be counted together. So I have 1a plus 6a is 7a divided by 14. I can see that I have common factors there, which I'm going to simplify at some point. And then I've got times by 3 over a. That's all really just times on top, divide on bottom. Everything's just connected with times now since I got rid of the plus. The plus is a problem. We can't do canceling when there's pluses. But when there's no pluses, we can start canceling because we know this is a times a divide a. So when I simplify this, I end up with 21 on top, 14 on bottom. I'm going to divide the common factor of 7. So I end up with 3 over 2 when I divide the common factor of 7 out on top and bottom. This one here, we've got to do the common denominator first because we have to do the subtract first. But I need a common denominator and I have a times b on both. But I'm missing a times 3 on this fraction here. So I'm going to do times 3 times 3. And I end up with 6 over 3b, that's my common denominator, minus 1 over 3b, my common denominator. And I'm going to change that times and divide into a times. And then I'm going to flip that fraction to 2 over 5b. Okay, so if I treat those as factors, I just need a times 3 factor to make it a common denominator. I now can count the numerator. It's just ones in the numerator, so I have 6 ones minus 1 is going to give us 5 ones. This is all over 3b. And I don't need a common denominator to multiply. And when I do multiplication, I just do top times top. So I end up with 10 on top. And bottom times bottom. Now when I multiply 3b times 5b, I'm going to multiply the numbers, 3 times 5. And then I have to remember b times b is going to give me b squared. Okay, I should have maybe canceled my times and divide by 5s, but I'm going to just simplify that. At the end, I'm going to take out my extra factor of times 5 on top and bottom. And then I'm left with 5b squared on the bottom. Remember to keep the b squared on the bottom because it's the divide by b twice.